from the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Hello and welcome to the Primetime Bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV. I am Gifty Anto up here. Coming up tonight, residents of Shama Apo in the Western region arrest a vessel loaded with about 100 barrels of premixed fuel. A pressure group in the NPP asks leadership to render account of expenses made in the 2012 general elections. And we will tell you the story of a woman abused by her husband and left to die. Also coming up on business, Finance Minister Seth Tekbe confirms a slow growth of the Ghanaian economy in the second quarter of 2013. On the international front, Kenyan authorities are using DNA to determine the identity of those killed at the Westgate Mall attack. Meanwhile, the International Court resumes trial of Kenyan Deputy President William Ruto. These showbiz and sports are coming up. Please stay with us for the next hour. To begin with, residents of Shama Apo in the Shama district of the Western region have arrested a vessel carrying close to about 100 barrels of premixed fuel allegedly being smuggled to Ivory Coast. Western regional correspondent William Peters reports the police are yet to arrest the culprits, but investigations have started.
According to the residents, they saw a vessel on shore around 3 p.m. on Tuesday with some items being loaded into it. They immediately became suspicious and laid ambush. They then quickly impounded the vehicle together with some items. The fuel was in barrels and residents say they counted close to 100 barrels, estimated at over 10,000 Ghana cedis. Other items in the vessel were taken to the police headquarters in Sekondi. The Sekondi District Commander DSP Abraham Kou said the culprits will soon be brought to book.
It became an intelligence that this is the operation of some of the fisher folks. They pretend as if they are going on a fishing expedition, not knowing when the premise come, they try to divert it to wherever the big canoes are. They offload the goods into the canoe and they send it to Ivory Coast. Yes, specifically Ivory Coast. And they don't go with only the fuel, they go with other items like narcotic drugs, medicinal drugs, and even pellets.
The assemblyman for Shama Etifi electoral area, Joseph Isaiah Mensah, encouraged authorities to take up the matter and arrest perpetrators. The fishermen are always complaining that whenever there is promise in Shama, they don't get some to go to fishing. Now what can we do? They always come and complain to me. Assemblyman, what are you doing about? Assemblyman, what are you doing about? For the issue. Calm down. I know one day, God will come and the truth will prevail. The only thing is that I want to wait for the police investigation outcome. After that, now we will also come at it. The Western Regional Police Commander, DCOP Kofi Boache, praised residents for the arrest.
Obviously, without information or without the active participation of the public in this arrest, no policeman will have even known that this is something which is being smuggled to Ivory Coast. So all that I will say is that we need the public collaboration and active cooperation in fighting crime. And this is not restricted to only premixed fuel smuggling, but in all crimes, especially in armed robbery and other violent crimes. We need people to be giving us the information which will lead to the apprehension of suspects and also for further investigation and prosecution.
William Benjamin Peters report from the Western region.
The Accra Metropolitan Assembly AMA has stepped in to pay the rent arrears of Bebese Junior High School to save the school from a possible shutdown. 2 weeks ago, the Joy News team reported on the situation at Bebese Junior High School, where as many as 200 pupils were crammed into a classroom. A week after the story aired, the AMA has taken action to save the school from shutdown. My colleague Marian Ture has been following up on the issue and has filed this report.
A week after the AMA resolved their issue with the Bebese Junior High School here in Accra, Joy News is here to find out how teaching and learning is going 1 week on. And I have with me here Madam Regina Adeyaba, who is the deputy head of the school. Hello, Madam.
Hello. Oh, everything is in order now. Yeah, everything is moving on well. I think that was from last week. Last 2 weeks, AMA and our regional director came in and the problem was solved. Since then, everything moves on well.
Do you know the details of whatever transpired between the landlord and the AMA?
In actual fact, we the teachers are not involved, but he just told us that they are solving the problem, so no problem. We should come and stay here and do our teaching and learning.
Did the break in school affect your curriculum in any way?
Yeah, really, because you see the number here and the number we were having in the other classroom. So teaching learning was not all that effective. So as we came down here last week, we are supposed to go over all that we taught earlier on. Yeah, so it has really affected it. Yeah.
During the 6 months arrears has been cleared on the property, the landlord Gideon Walking explains money wasn't the real issue.
The program itself is a communication, who to communicate to, and then you know what is happening. Yeah, that is what brought the noise. Like, since your intervention, I have received this letter. Yeah. It has been dated somewhere 12th September, but I got it 30th September, which I have responded to somewhere yesterday. They are now telling me they still need the place. They still want to use the place, which obviously we will give it to them. But then we should also reach an agreement, and then they should know we also help them in some way, because they came for 6 months initially. They requested for 6 months. Now if you count from 2010 till now, you can see. So we better need to sit down and improve the thing for them. That was the problem. So I think maybe this time round things will go well.
There are, however, talks of the school relocating. But Richard Dama, landlord for Stream A, says the land is available for the AMA to expand as it pleases.
Our school there would my father give to the community. Many people, or maybe banks, managers and those things, they all come here since 93. So we have officially people past, all education people, all students. We like the school that is here. The school lets this town or this village go up. I already know that they call it Bebese. So they know Bebese school, all school, Bebese, to stadium, and you go make like they play ball, Mampo B, Sempe, 4 and 7 edition, and KG Terray, and Crucis, the boys. So the school make name in this community. The land is there. So we need AMA to come on board.
This infrastructural issue is a shared responsibility that needs a multi-pronged approach to solve. For Joy News, Marian Ture reporting.
$15,271 women were abused countrywide in 2012, 2,365 more than 2011's 12,906 cases. 25-year-old Eva Sarkodie tells the story of abuse from her husband and an eventual acid attack which left her disfigured. Viewers are warned the pictures coming up could be disturbing.
aduane mpomiti me fa bi nkoma no me hwe sede na ositie nenne waye sana menene ne da me kodemu a mani ntumi nka nguso echese ne hwene boyi nyina si manenu munko a no homefa odidi kakra na home ne kra eye chia nti ontimi nidi eno ani koko ane fantanko a no wono nti sesi ame home ewo me eda me yem ne ete ti mi sraboafo ye no me.
25-year-old Ivasa Kodie is a JHS graduate. She completed her basic education in 2005 with her younger sister. Her dream of becoming a nurse was shattered when she had to stay home to make way for the younger sister to advance to the SHS level due to financial difficulties. Ivasa Kodie then ventured into petty trading to make ends meet. The business collapsed. 6 years ago, she met 35-year-old taxi driver Kwame Danso, popularly known as Kwame Alolo, at Bibiani, to whom she got married.
And Papa catch me say, oh, die, oh, giddy, new site, it's you know. I can't remember when we come quite now. We do a journey, not my cobe balo. It's it, Bevan, so a jello, so who's a bit the baby do come now. If you are never quite now, will bomb. It's you know, and me, Papa, catching up a passing me to know, and one also is son near my Indibechi. Kotana me papa dan no for 2 years ye me father na eti na de bia chokwa oka se no adwane we siwo a oba odi mensanso no kakra na upremi.
Kwame Danso allegedly threw acid on her, burning her face, chest, back and other parts of her body.
See tabo to free feel ho no Thursday we twa 4 months. It's 1 for crazy come, but it's yet so young, Kohoko Bodan. It's 4 months, movement that them one. Now the go crew, I catch him, said the old to know Jada deck or it's over our baby deck. Sometimes now Corona Makwa to over 4 banners who command the mammy. So catch him so baby or banners so near me. It's a new remedy, the whole of it is a wee both on it. And I papa besides someone, no say a milk me. It's what I say, look, I'm sure it's out and I'm at the deck and acquire the man and over Benny. Tia, I'm sorry, ye deck, and then be ye acquiring the Masubu rubber, and that we do question or quinano. It's ye main gate and crockery, the blue or so a blue or four. It may be a sword and be beer from the other sana. I say, Nikitan, Eshanechi. It may be a form of the other or two go, Miss Preocupe, and no Johnny. Baby. Oh, offre. Tama oshi egu bisu ya dem call hospital no. Actually ba otoso mienu eba ho be catch me say tama ye me papa mo dem call hospital no one boy no eba fi ho san be bisa amase. Na boy ne so free bi o say na down for now otwene ma me taxi no. Ono di ni dwane ye.
That's a pathetic story there. Well, we'll bring you a full version of that story at 11:30 p.m. We'll also bring you some comments later on that you've put on our Facebook wall. But let's move on now. Floating drivers in the capital say they are bent on striking come Monday, October 7 to defy a directive by the AMA to register with particular lorry stations or join a transport union. According to them, it is not feasible to operate from a particular lorry station since those already in existence are congested and less economical. Matilda Nakwa Dennis visited some taxi stations and has filed this report.
When the news team visited the taxi ranks, the general impression was that the roaming drivers did not want to join the GPRTU for fear of submitting to regulations and being controlled. Even though some of the unionized drivers conceded that there is no room for new entrants, they allege some drivers have had the opportunity but simply chose to freelance.
To a station, you'll be asked, don't do this, don't do that, maintain your car, pay this toll, pay this levy and stuff like that. And those are the things they feel when they are on their own. Nobody controls them, they can move anywhere, they don't have to pay anything to anybody.
The spaces are limited. Yes, it is true. Now, it is not everybody who wants to sell that can get access to our markets. It is true. And therefore, it is true that it is not every driver who can get access to the lorry parks. But some have privilege that they should have used to join. Long time that you should be members, but because they don't want to be controlled, they decided to stay out. So the thing is in two folds. Those who genuinely want to get to unions that are not getting, and those who don't want to join any union at all.
But these drivers, usually situated around the Ifwa Sutherland Children's Park, awaiting the rush hour, say the GPRTU and the AMA had conspired to dupe them of the little they had. According to them, they are disrespected because they have no one to speak for them.
Why is it that you don't organize yourselves into a union?
We don't know the reason. What is going on within this country? What has drivers done to these people in this country? We don't understand. We are all students, so boss. We are all students. As I'm standing here, I have to go to Polytechnic. Yes. But the problem is, if some people see that you are a taxi driver or commercial driver, they don't give a damn to you.
The AMA is intentionally creating this thing to be taking money from us. That is as simple as that. Go to any AMA office and see if you can find even a computer. Even when you go to AMA office, you want to go and do the AMA license. They'll tell you, okay, pay. They'll take you picture. Even to take the picture, to get the license, will take you like 3 months.
What's it mean? Cost station? The one to me call Tumpo. Now, the answer. Station, we work on go black to that. Damn, I just want to a home. Once you're damn to her, and then I'll be home. It is our nature. Obia, what you can pay. Now, see on call station. No, I loaded to her. The one of Uncle says, how many you chop money?
At the Circle Taxi Rank Union member Ampari was in support of the decision of the taxi drivers to embark on a strike action.
When you came to the station, you can see that the station is full. We have about 100 or something applications that they want station to run, but there's no space, so we can't accommodate them. So the floating drivers too, they are also helping the system.
Edward Hoffman, national chairman of the Ghana Transport Association, however, disagrees with the stance of these drivers, explaining the directive of the AMA had been completely misunderstood.
If you have registered within the district from which you operate, you are permitted to go to any other district, provided you have the sticker and then you have your driver's permit, which is genuine. If you look at the size of our districts, you cannot say that you cannot drive within districts.
It seems the problem boils down to educating the drivers on the reasons why they must comply to this directive, because the drivers are obstinate and would not budge.
Let's move now to the Ashanti region. A suspected thief was lynched at Kumasi in the early hours of Wednesday after being caught stealing. Residents say he was lynched after an attempt at stealing from one of them. He is yet to be identified by the police. A report by Mahmoud Muhammad Nuruddin.
He had machete wounds around his head and leg, with blood oozing from his nose and mouth. The mob tied the hands of the suspected thief, perhaps preventing him from escaping. Hundreds of residents were attracted to the scene but could not identify the suspected thief.
They say the chrono the highway and no my bed 3:30 on my life of any bola so a man for could show yes near the doom the guso emotional and Machiana police for Abachi Modomoko.
Now, Cronfone high when you macro see a babania ye, I be who nipa crown should be who is any person is it me height first new volunteer Chromia. And then in nature, volunteer no one idea. None of man boy, ever has say, who could be crab a drana job by wounds through.
Residents want the police service to intensify patrols in the area.
This is the primetime bulletin here on Joy News. We'll take a quick break, but still to come, we'll tell you the story about a pressure group in the NPP asking leadership to render account of expenses made in the 2012 general election. We'll also tell you what the finance minister is saying about the economy. Please stay. You're welcome back. President John Dramani Mahama today taped an interview with CNN International's Fiona Sweeney on a number of key world issues arising from his address to the United Nations last week. The interview in the CNN's Atlanta studios focused on various issues including Kenya and human trafficking. President Mahama also answered questions sent through CNN's iReport, making him the first head of state to appear on the CNN's iReport digital platform to answer questions and interact with the world. As part of his 3-day visit to Atlanta, Georgia in the USA, President John Mahama has been holding a number of meetings with American businesses under the auspices of the World Affairs Council, the Kansas State University and the Ghana International Chamber of Commerce. The president also attended a breakfast meeting in his honor at the residence of the governor of Georgia, Nathan Deal. Earlier on Monday, President John Mahama interacted with students, faculty and staff at Kansas State University at KSU's Bailey and Family Performance Center. Discussions with them centered on what he described as an improvement in economic and political conditions in Africa. Another pressure group within the NPP, the Patriotic Future, are demanding account of all expenses made by the leadership of the party in the run-up to the 2012 presidential and parliamentary elections. The group says the leadership of the party, whose mandates have expired, are trying to subvert the constitution of the party and impose leaders on them without recourse to proper procedures.
The spokesperson for the group, George Mirkuduka, expressed worry that till date, polling agents in the December polls have still not been paid.
Where is the polling agents' allowance? As we speak, many of our polling agents have not received their responsibility allowance in the last election. These same polling station executives have been inflicted and denigrated with more pain by accusing them of being responsible for our defeat in the 2012 elections. The situation is bad and clearly exposes our current leadership as insensitive and a clear case of losing touch with the grassroots of the party.
He also demanded the party leadership render account of all expenses made during the December polls.
1. The 16,000 paid by each parliamentary candidate aspirant. 2. Revenue from the dues, text messages, and a strong membership drive, that is printing of cards. 3. The campaign funds raised by the party during the electioneering campaign that were meant for polling station executive organization. We of the Patriotic Future of NPP believe that the focus of the outgoing National Party executives should be on identifying the reasons why we lost the 2008 election by only about 38,000 votes, but 2012 election by more than 325,000 votes, a whopping 750%.
The group said it will resist all attempts by the outgoing leadership of the party to entrench themselves in power without proper procedures.
What is the objective behind this proposal? The proposal is egocentric and portrays our party leadership as self-seeking individuals whose main agenda is inimical to the unity and progress of our dear party. Ladies and gentlemen, we are calling on all party faithfuls to reject this ill-intent proposal and maintain the bottom-up approach of selecting leaders. We are tired of the machinations by Jake and Sir John, and we are by this statement sending a strong warning to them to put a stop to their devilish acts that have the sole aim of sinking this great party further into opposition.
They later made a special appeal to the former president, John Ejekum Kufuor, to intervene in the leadership crisis of the party.
A just-released Transparency International report estimates that 40% of BECE and senior high school graduates had to pay some form of bribe before they could access public schools to further their education. The damning report cited the lack of quality public institutions of learning as reasons for the trend.
The GII report, which was released on Wednesday morning, cited the lack of accountability and transparency in the educational sector as reasons for the trend. According to the report, transparency and strong accountability mechanisms make it harder for corrupt school officials and university staff to engage in corrupt practices. The report also highlighted the implementation of anti-corruption basics such as access to information on education policy and code of conduct for teachers and parents as some measures to reverse the trend. The Vice President of Imani Ghana, Kofi Bentel, believes that government must invest power in local communities to choose how they want their schools to be run to reverse the trend.
I do believe that if you had devolved power to, for instance, communities, and if a community had the power to determine who teaches in this school and who is the headmaster in this school, some public schools would do better. If you let the communities even have a say in what goes on in a public school, the quality is going to go up. So that over-centralization of power leads to a situation where the quality is down and only few schools are good. Then everybody is charging there. When you have that situation coming up, you are going to have a situation where corruption will start.
He also called for the involvement of Old Students Association in the governance structure of public schools to serve as a check for the quality of teaching and learning.
In the schools where old students are effective, they seize the power, they insist. All right. Now, why should you have a situation where government tries to drive out all the other stakeholders? All right. Which is why I'm saying go anywhere else and see where communities have a stake in their schools. The schools do well. Because parents have an emotional attachment to their children and they want their children to do well. That is why poor people are taking their kids out of public school and sending them to private schools for the poor. All right, because over there they get to speak to the teacher. Okay, over there they have a better connection with the school system. All right, and they pay money. I know.
The GII report called on governments, international organizations, business and civil society to ensure good governance is promoted in the educational sector of the country.
Placement into senior high school has begun. With almost 2 weeks in it, it's so far so good for some in the journey of life. We caught up with 14-year-old Irama Hagan, who shared her story with us.
Irama has been home since she graduated JHS in May. She lives in Cape Coast, but since she has a long holiday, she's been visiting relatives in Accra. Today, she shall check her BECE results. It is as easy as sending a text. Just like that, Irama's future has been settled.
I feel happy, I feel excited. I mean, I can't describe how I feel right now.
So what's next?
I'll just learn for Justify Your Inclusion. It's an exam that most of the schools write to see whether the students really got their results from the BECE, whether it wasn't through any foul means or maybe any negative means, but they did it themselves. And also for you to defend the course that you are going to do, whether maybe you are going to do general arts, you have to justify whether it's general arts you want to do based on that examination.
Later, she will go and buy the WAEC card that allows you to print the official results from the internet. The process is not too complicated. On Facebook, most of you also feel the placement is going well, with most getting schools you chose. But that is not the case for everybody. Some of you say you still haven't been placed at all, and others say they got schools they didn't choose. Similar problems from last year. Off to the placement center, and parents are already here seeking answers. The coordinator of the computer placement center, George Atabuating, explains the reason for some of the hiccups.
During registration time, you look at the choices the students make, and there was one student, for example, who did so well, got a mark of 476, one of the highest marks. But then, when it came to the schools that he chose, he wanted to go to St. Augustine's, but St. Augustine's was his third choice.
If all goes well, almost all qualified candidates are expected to be in SHS before the end of the month to continue on their journey in life.
Some students, because of the schools that they chose and their scores being low, they couldn't be placed because the competition was very keen. But that doesn't mean they are not going to get schools. There are schools for them to go to. So we're going to do a second placement.
Whether it is a school one has chosen or not.
But if you say scientists, it has more to do with physics and chemistry.
A story of success there about the computer placement system. Well, up next is business with Bright Nananfo.
Joy News Business is brought to you in association.
Thanks so much for staying there. My name is Bright Nananfo and welcome to the business segment. To our very first story. The Minister of Finance, Seth Terkper, says the economy in the second quarter grew by 6.1% as compared to 6.7% in the first quarter. According to the minister, the trend of growth in the second quarter saw the service and industrial sectors lead with 9.2 and 2.5% respectively, as compared to a decline in the agricultural sector by 3.9%.
According to the finance minister, the state of the economy from January to August 2013 presented an outlook for the rest of the year. He also presented statements of economic policies and recent development on the global and domestic economy. According to the Minister of Finance, Seth Terkper, the tax measures approved by Parliament to support the fiscal consolidation effort indicated that both revenue and expenditure were below their respective targets for the period. Seth Terkper also touched on the expenditure performance of the economy over the period under review.
Total expenditure, including payments for the clearance of arrears and outstanding commitments from January to August 2013, amounted to 18.3 billion, which is equivalent to 20.7% of GDP, against a target of 20.1 billion or 22.6% of GDP. The outturn was 8.5% lower than the budget target and 18.4% higher than the outturn for the same period in 2012. The growth in expenditure was mainly due to an increase in interest costs, as I've said already, and in particular, the growth in compensation of public sector employees during the period.
The minister added that even though there is a decline in revenue from our major export commodities, the oil sector continues to have a positive impact on the economy.
Although the performance of domestic revenue from traditional sources have been weak, oil revenue performance for the period under review has been very strong as a result of higher than expected, crude oil price, higher production levels, and higher corporate income taxes from the sector. Therefore, total oil revenue from January to August amounted to 1.2 billion against a target of 788 million.
The minister said although measures are being implemented to achieve the deficit target for this year, there is still a major challenge in achieving this target.
Total revenue and grants for the period was 11.9 billion, equivalent to 13.4% of GDP, against a target of 14.2 billion or 16% of GDP. So there has been a shortfall, as I said earlier on, in our revenue generation. In nominal terms, the provisional outturn was 13.1% than the outturn for the same period in 2012. So again, even though we are not meeting the targets, because of the slowdown in the economy, the performance of revenue is still higher than what we were doing nominally last year.
The Minister of Finance said the 2014 budget statement in economic policy has been prepared and will outline a number of measures and strategies for fiscal and debt sustainability as well as macroeconomic stability while ensuring sustainable growth.
We're staying on the economy, and stakeholders are asking government to completely review Ghana's economic policy if the country is to attain middle income status. According to them, the over-reliance on direct taxes to close the gap of the 12% GDP deficit and the dependence on natural resources to fuel the economy is a major contributory factor to the country's economic woes. These issues were raised at the 2014-2016 budget stakeholders meeting held in Accra.
The government in June this year circulated the planning and budget guidelines to guide MDAs in the preparation of government's budget and economic policy. Reading the opening statements on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the Deputy Finance Minister, George Ricketts-Egan, said the high expenditure of government has serious implications. He therefore outlined some remedies government has put in place to salvage the situation.
These measures include revenue administration measures such as field monitoring, debt recovery, and compliance enforcement to improve revenue efficiency are being intensified. Recently, new taxes have been approved by Parliament, which will help rake in more revenue.
These, some stakeholders believe, will not help and call for a reintroduction of the value-added tax, which, according to them, will be more effective.
I think that we should bring back the issue of increasing VAT back to the discussion table. Because if you look at your direct taxes, the chunk of the direct taxes is mainly from the payee, and indeed, of course, company taxes. Now, these are very few people who are actually paying these things in the economy. Okay, in terms of taxes reaching the general public, in my mind, I think the VAT, and I think it's fairly established, that VAT does a better job.
The TUC was also concerned about dwindling fortunes of the employment sector and urged policymakers to adopt employment targeting policies rather than focusing on single-digit inflation.
For almost 2 to 3 years now, we've experienced single-digit and low inflation, but the question is, what has happened? Informalization, also casualization of employment continue to be on the rise. So the TUC basically is calling on government to abandon its inflation targeting approach towards economic policy and rather adopt employment targeting. In this light, we are really calling for specific employment targets to be announced annually so that both monetary and fiscal policies will be geared towards achieving these targets.
This, the Executive Director of ISODEC, Bishop Akologo, believes can only be achieved by deviating from the reliance on natural resources to fuel the economy.
Natural resource-based development is not reliable anywhere, and countries have always tried to use it to jump to the next level. And we have to begin to look at ways to do that now. In the next 3 to 4 years, if we don't find that formula, forget about even if you find 1 more billion barrels of oil, it won't take you nowhere.
Other stakeholders also called for the abolition of the special taxes which was imposed on all industries earlier in the year. There was also the call to involve more local contractors in the award of government projects to ensure the employment rate is boosted.
Now, to some informal business, prices of fish have gone up by at least 20% effective Wednesday, October 2013. Fish traders at the Malamata market in Accra are saying that the increase is unavoidable and they blame it on the increase in the prices of premix fuel.
Ordinarily, market women will shy away from granting interviews on cameras. However, a visit to the Malamata market Wednesday morning painted a completely different picture. The fish traders from all corners of the market called for cameras.
Hey, Patriotic I can't papa. Yanto niamamu. Yanto shi frana pa mbetna se mo kon metu na midi. President won hwe bibi nka mayen. Mr. Okwa ni mane boy den. O ka almost say a lot of fair yatum. Yes, I'm a young Suyan Twaddy. The best just 6 o'clock, my 20,000. Well, I couldn't be able to free me in Machumokona media. I'm a going to crunch in him and toss in him, and I'm with him, me and I'm a boca. And found to the cabinet, they have free me. I'm sent to see him. Yanto at the president one way and yeah, bread. Said, yeah, bread, Patriotic Future.
Tuesday, October 1, 2013, the National Petroleum Authority (NPA) reduced the prices of fuel by 4% and adjusted premix upwards by 23%. Currently, a gallon of premix fuel, which was sold at 37 cedis, is now going for 45 cedis. Since premix is the only fuel fishermen use in propelling the outboard motor of their canoes, when the price is increased, it automatically affects operational costs.
And I'm on the boy. Cut almost say, and I mean, yeah, but I haven't got I know, and the boy did walk. I thought I mean, there so, and the boy did no. Nothing me, so many sauce, my boca.
And that's it for Business Gifty. We'll be back with some more. Thanks so much for watching.
Joy News Business.
Sports is brought to you in association.
Now time to talk sports. The Medical Committee of the Ghana Football Association have confirmed to Joy Sports they are embarking on a 3-year project to ensure the health of Premier League players and ensure that they actually meet the health requirements of the game. Kwame Bimpom of King Faisal and Henry Yati of Inter Allies have suffered cardiac arrest in the Premier League games at the Barbera Sports Stadium and the Tema Park respectively. The alarming incidents recently have evoked this response from the Medical Committee. Dr. Prince Pambo is a member of the committee and has been speaking to Joy Sports.
The technical directorate of the FA, headed by Coach Otia Kenten, the beginning of every year and then towards the end of every year, the various units under the technical directorate of the FA and the medical committee happen to be one, submit a list of programs. And for the past 3 years, I should say, we've made it a point to organize at least 3 to 4 medical seminars. The topics get varied, but each of them there's always a component of CPR, which is resuscitation, and then first aid, and then a component to do with management of sports injuries. This is what has been happening. And then also the equipment we receive from FIFA and CAF, and though the FA purchases, then we try to teach people how to use these.
Right, now time to talk about the Glo Premier League. Kumasi Asante Kotoko definitely have maintained their 100% start to the Ghana Premier League with another win, and they beat Wa All Stars by 1-0. We'll now pay attention to some of the results and actually get the full details of all that has been happening right in the league today. So we just look at that. They'll be flashing right down there. And we'll start with that, of course. Accra Hearts of Oak, there you have it. They beat Hazakes by 2-1 over there. Emmanuel Hayford and Winford Kobna getting the goals there for Accra Hearts of Oak. We can also have that one. King Faisal beat Inter Allies right there. You look at New Dubias, they beat Inter Allies by 1-0. Very important win over there for Inter Allies. I mean, for New Dubias, King Faisal drew goalless with Ashanti Gold right there. You get into that game between Amidas Professionals and Liberty Professionals. It was 1-1 between the two sides. Midiama SC have had a very difficult start to the season, really, and they've not been able to get a win in 4 games. It didn't work out for them, even though they were at home. Hearts Lions beat them by 1-0. Then Ebuswa Dwarfs beat Brecum Chelsea by 3-1. Issues for 20 local right there. Adriana Stars also lost to Bechem United by 2-1. Wa All Stars lost to Kumasi Asante Kotoko by 1-0. That definitely means that Kumasi Asante Kotoko will be smiling and currently will be top of the table. So we'll just have a look at what the table is looking like after 4 games in the Ghana Premier League. Very interesting, you have it. Kotoko with 12 points, top of the table. Accra Hearts Siboko coming in strong. Remember, in our last match day, they managed to beat Inter Allies, and they followed that up today with a win over Hazakis, and they are second on the log. Ashgold follow next. We have Bechem United, Heart of Lions, Dwarfs, Adriano Stars in that order. And we finish up with the final part of the table right there. And then you can see clearly what is happening to the clubs there. Liberty Professionals, Wild Stars, Brecum Chelsea in that order. You also have Media Mercy, New Edubiasi, Hazakis, Faisals, and Inter Allies. Well, there's really no end to the baptism of fire for Inter Allies, the league debutants, really. Well, now time to talk about the Champions League. A couple of results were expected tonight. Indeed, Bayern Munich did very well. They managed to beat Man City, a whooping result over there. Manchester United still don't have the confidence, and it's been seen. They drew 1-1 with Shakhtar Donetsk. We can now pay attention to the results in detail. So there we have it. Bayer Leverkusen beat Real Sociedad by 2-1 in Group A. Some sort of a disappointing result because we expected Real Sociedad to play very well in the Champions League. It's not been happening for them. And now that game, everybody was interested in. Shakhtar Donetsk joined 1-1 with Manchester United. Danny Welbeck getting the goal for Manchester United. Their troubles will continue definitely, and we'll find out how that's sorted out. In Group B, Juventus drew 2-2 with Galatasaray. Another surprising result. Didier Drogba was amongst the goals there for Galatasaray. They have a new coach in Roberto Mancini. Good work for them, definitely. Real Madrid beat FC Copenhagen by 4-0. That was always almost expected. In Group C, Anderlecht lost to Olympiacos by 3-0, even though they played away. And then Paris Saint-Germain beat Benfica by 3-0. Ibrahimovic doing a fantastic job there as well. CSK Moscow beat Victoria Plens by 3-2. And Bayern Munich beat Manchester City by 3-1. So loads of issues there again for Manuel Pellegrini. And that will be all definitely for the Champions League tonight, obviously. And we'll be paying more attention to that. It'll be interesting to find out how all these teams shape up. That'll be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adi Jr. Get to join us with some more.
Sports was brought to you in association with...
Give it that. Welcome. Now let's do some international news. Now, estimates say the economic impact of the U.S. government shutdown vary from $40 million to $80 million a day. House of Republicans have sent a government spending bill to the Senate that would delay Obamacare for a year. That means that on Tuesday, which is today, the federal government will not be open for business, leaving approximately 700,000 federal employees, except for the military and essential services like Medicare. Via Skype is Edward Boateng from New York. Let's find out from him what the impact of that has been. Now, hello there. Hello, Mr. Boateng, can you hear me? Well, if you can hear me, just let me know how the shutdown has affected the economy from your perspective as a resident there. Okay, we appear to be having some technical challenges now. We'll still try to establish that contact with Mr. Boateng via Skype. But let's do some other international stories. Now, relatives of some of the persons missing after the attack on a Kenyan shopping mall have come forward for DNA testing. The police made the request after the discovery of body parts. Get to the lighter side of the news now. The man with the smooth voice, or the ladies' man, Kwabna says he's set to have to save a heart with his music. He, in collaboration with the Cardio Center of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, is organizing a concert which will feature some of Ghana's finest musicians to raise funds to support those patients.
Target is we want to raise enough to be able to cater for the first 20 patients. So we're looking at 250,000
Talks about what patrons should expect on October 19, the day of the concert.
Come see Kwabna live in concert. Come see Samini, come see Sakode, come see Becca, come see Efia, come see OJ, all in concert to raise funds for the Cardio Center.
Well, they denied it when speculations were rife that they were splitting, but eventually one of them has left. Promzi of VIP says he has left music group for personal reasons.
Showbiz was